All right, hey folks, I am joined by Mrs. Poet. Mrs. Poet, say hello.
Hi.
That was a excited hi. That was all. You nailed that hi.
I'm here.
You are. Fact. Hey, we wanted to do a video on marriage and life balance, and I think this is going to be productive. We intend to launch a podcast. That's why the new updated studio and cool microphones and stuff is going on. So we plan on doing this a little bit more systematically, but now we're going to be off the cuff, no script, just kind of talking about some really, really important stuff regarding healthy marriage, happy life kind of stuff that we haven't arrived at, stuff that we're really trying to press into. Because here's one thing that I've found. You know, when you start courting someone and you're like, hey, look at that girl.
Did you say courting?
Courting or
That's pretty old-fashioned.
Hey, old-fashioned seems to work better in marriage than new. You look at the divorce rates and even the folks that stay together, it seems like they become glorified roommates.
Sure.
I can't really think of more than just a small handful of people that have happy, chase each other around the living room, making out kind of marriages 10, 20 years in. So anyway, maybe we could do with a little bit more old fashioned. But what I was driving at is, when we start, our romance with someone, we ideally think that, if we love each other enough, somehow that just equals happily ever after. Like if we nail the wedding and we're really, really in love, more so than anyone else has ever been, it'll be enough. And that's just not true. It's not true.
Right.
Love is not enough. You got to be really smart and you got to work really hard to make marriage work. And you got to love each other a lot. And a lot goes into that. But that's going to be kind of the opening up of the of this video, kind of the raw impetus for why we're making a video in the first place. But Miss Poet, why don't you tell us your thoughts?
All right. So it seems like we're launching into love is not enough for marriage.
Well, that was kind of the thing that got us here, but kind of the how do we make marriage work from season to season for different balance and stuff? So
Life balance.
Life balance stuff. Is
Okay. Sorry, I kicked something. I would, definitely say, in agreeing with John, that marriage is lots of work. And I think what we need to talk about is wisdom for every season. So sometimes I turn around and I think, how did we just make it out of that? Because we have two boys a year and a half apart, and things have changed since they were 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and now they're 4 and 6. And so how we were handling one season is very different from how we're handling the next season. So if you're parents of really young children, survival mode, be wise, protect your energy, in the best way you can so that you don't snap each other's heads off when you're exhausted, not if, but when. But I think we'll just give some generalities for parents of any age kid. And this isn't just about people with children. This is married life and how you're really striving to fall in love a little bit more every day. We can say hands down, besides what all the romantic movies may convince you, we're more in love now than we were when we were dating 12 years ago. And that's not just some sappy old geezer thing, because you think, well, love has got to be at its height when it's that first attraction. That's what so many people yearn for. They crave that. The girl first getting spotted or checked out, then there's the chase and then discovering who each other really is and then falling in love with that person. So maybe you would be tempted to think that's the height of it, and then year by year a little bit more fades, especially with career, kids, bills, deadlines, life. But I think if you do it right, it can actually grow. I really believe that we know each other now better than ever, and it's a good thing. So we're not pushing each other away more every year. We're getting closer. We're investing more intentionally in each other.
And there's no way that will naturally happen because we've kind of gone into like, all right, we got our We got something figured out, and we'll just kind of put it on autopilot as the tyranny of urgent and life and kids. All of a sudden, they'll consume every bit of affection, romance, date time that you could have for each other. Because if you don't watch it, uh, this is how just men and women work. Women captivate and men pursue. That's the big good. It can flip flop, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, women captivate, draw us in, and dudes hunt. I want to hunt. And so we chase and pursue in the beginning, but then once the chase is over, you get married, then it's kind of like, all right, glad I did that. And it doesn't work. Women never stop captivating him, and men never stop chasing and pursuing her. And the moment you do, though you may not realize it, your marriage starts to decline. And it may be 20 years goes by and you've been so focused on raising kids that once they move out, all of a sudden you look at each other and you look back and kind of like, well, we don't have as much to do.
Yeah,
And
what do we do now?
That fiber that's holding you together, you didn't work on it. And so your marriage died long ago.
Yeah.
And you just wake up when the busyness has stopped to realize, holy cow, our marriage is a bit of a disaster. So you want to jump in because I wanted to kind of talk about our rocky journey.
Oh yeah,
to hear, because
That's
man,
so
I mean,
funny.
when we fight,
Now
it's a little bit of a Nicholas Sparks Notebook kind of thing. If you saw that movie, like when we're doing well, things are well.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we're fighting, it's man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can fight.
Yeah.
We can fight, and it's we're just such a flawed couple. We really are just flawed people,
Super
flawed couples.
More
and
John than me, I'd have to say.
I will knock you in the
Just
neck. I guess you're not supposed to. Everyone takes everything so seriously, but
Right. Yeah.
Miss Poet loves me the most when I don't know, being a little bit more of a punk and saying
Yeah.
outlandish things. So I don't
Yeah.
answer my call. I don't answer her call in the very first ring, and she, 3 or 4 rings in, I pick up. I'm like, "Hello," and she's like, "Who is she?" So I don't know. We play, but anyway,
That's a joke too.
Our marriage is something that we constantly have to work on. Haven't arrived on. We're still figuring stuff out, and it's just really difficult. But it's one of the most important pieces of my life. If I'm good with her, I can be okay. If I'm not okay with her, nothing in life seems good, as she's kind of my second self of I need to be okay with her. So anyway, what do you think?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. Yeah. We'll have to say that, of course, the foundation is our faith. Everything builds up from there. So who we are, character, integrity, your goals, whatever you're striving for comes from what we believe.
You
and
gotta,
that's pulling us together
yeah,
too.
we got to have a standard that we believe on, kind of
Yeah.
like a rule book to follow. As I recognize I am nothing like the man I was 10 years ago.
Right.
And that means, we're in our 12th year of marriage now. That means who she married. I'm not the same man that she married. And I mean, I can shoot off in all kinds of directions, but to have a centering factor, something that we agree on, like this is our standard. And so for us, Christian faith, Bible, that's kind of like our standard as we continue to grow and move in different directions. What if you're moving apart? So just because everything's gelling well at one time, years later, it can get a little crazy. Let's talk about our just kind of, I wish I had a graph now to show this. Sometimes I even break out a graph. Okay, you draw it and I'll talk about it. Okay, so we started off.
Okay.
We started off and we were really, really happy. This is the first few months, guys.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah.
Yay, you're going to end up way over here. This is a bad graph already.
I'm a bad drawer.
So really, really happy. And then after that honeymoon first few months stage, it just kind of tanked. Is it? Whoops.
Here we go.
Tanking,
Wait,
tanking.
you mean I'm
You're
not
gonna
in
be,
charge?
You're going to be so far out of paper.
Oh,
I've
ran
got
out of paper.
I've got a story.
You're gonna
here.
have to do
Your
the graph.
is terrible.
See, I mean, why are we even doing
You're
this?
terrible. Terrible graph. Did you ever see that sign where it's like plan ahead?
Yeah, and that falls off.
It's like plan ahead.
He's always done that. You should draw the
I
graph.
don't think you can. Okay, anyway,
Okay.
graph doesn't matter. All right, check it out. Listen. All right, so first few months, honeymoon phase, really, really fun, awesome. And then after a few months, just got into the nitty gritty of life, and it just kind of tanked. As I realized, man, I don't have me time anymore. I can't just like be nice and generous and fun with friends and then all of a sudden be like, you know what? And I'm going to go watch a Netflix Lost marathon for 8 hours. And you can do whatever you want when you're single. Then you're married and all of a sudden you have to consider what they want every single moment, how they feel. And hey, do you want to help me with the dishes? Like no one wants to do dishes, and then
I
it's
don't
your
either.
attitude. And
Yeah.
anyway, just that blew us away. And she was used to a certain expectation and certain dudes that I was a little bit different than the normal dude that you
Mm-hmm.
had dated in the past, right? And so we
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of figuring out to do, and we didn't really have a good model of how we wanted to do it. We couldn't look at anyone and be like, yes, we want a marriage like them. We didn't have that, so we were just kind of we had a general framework that was kind of biblical, but man, piecing that together was a rough start. And so I'd say the first 2 years was real difficult.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then it started to get better, probably because we just became better people individually.
We did. And let me say that two big struggles that we overcame by the grace of God is that I always wanted to totally rule and be completely in charge, and that had to be bust. Can
Yeah.
you guys imagine? And then, John, would you say that you were a bit harsh and made
I,
some girls cry and were pretty rough around the edges as far as just day to day life?
I'd say I kind of
So,
nailed it, and you were the crappy one. She was just really crappy, and I just crushed it. So
you know
guys,
what?
sound off.
He's partially right there.
No,
So
no, no, no.
we
So I erred on the side. My warrior poet balance was off. I had way too much warrior, way too little poet. So anyway, I was just, when she was having a hard time, I'm kind of like, oh, well, that you just got to suck it up, And you don't say that to a girl, and no one, they didn't explain that to me in the military. So
yeah.
apparently that's not what you say to women.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
anyway,
And it was just coming off that roller coaster of ideals now.
yeah,
Ideals are just so crafted. Again, we're mentioning movies, books. You mentioned Nicholas Sparks, and then just what you always hoped for. And then you get into the day-to-day life and you really see that living successfully as a couple is more about the dynamics of your friendship and the give and take way more than it is about, man, that was so fun last night. Let's go do whatever
yeah.
party again, because there's just day-to-day life that comes in, and it's how you handle that and how much you're giving back.
You had said something interesting about of the very few, and these are diamonds in the rough, of the very few couples, that are just happy, successful. They never lost the fire, which is almost unthinkable. They didn't lose the fire. The big common denominator that say this is the thing you got to really guard the most. What is it?
Friendship.
Friendship. Make
Yeah.
sure that they're your best friend. And the romantic, hot and heavy, whatever stuff, that is, third rate compared to just have a deep friendship. Make sure that they're your best friend. And you got to fight for that. That doesn't just naturally happen. Our first couple years was a fight to really do marriage well. Year 3, we started coming online and it started becoming fun. Year 4 was outrageously fun. And year 5, we were just synced up. Marriage was awesome. Life was awesome.
Yeah.
And then
we had babies.
babies.
Or one baby. We didn't have
screwed
twins.
it all up. Right? Screwed it all up.
No, kids are a blessing, right? They're wonderful. They're amazing. They will
make you go insane, and you'll love them for it.
Yeah.
Every night, you'll go through this very difficult day where success is defined as not stapling a $5 bill to their collar and dropping them off at the street corner, wishing them the best of luck. That was in a book.
That we cannot name.
We laughed out loud.
The name of that book.
Listen, success when you have little kids is not dropping them off at the street corner and wishing them the best of luck.
Right.
So awesome.
But we had a friend. We did have good friends by then that we could kind of look at how they were living and took their advice seriously. And one guy said to John, just wait. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Just wait. And what he meant by the strain of kids on the marriage was just the time factor and the emotional energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, the idea of, hey, what do you do in your free time? And you're like, free time? What's free time?
Yeah.
You have like a hobby? Is that
Yeah.
like a mythological what's hobby?
Yeah.
Because I mean, literally every moment of your life becomes service in someone else, whether it's your vocation, your wife, or your kids. And I found when we first had kids, I was really jealous for her attention. The kids got the best, and I got leftovers, which was usually just, you know, make you a sandwich before you went to bed. I mean,
That
there's
can
such
be a hard season.
yeah,
That's
that
just
was
a
tough.
given.
Yeah,
I
and
think with infants
it's
and
just about
toddlers.
survive.
Yeah.
Survive.
But I do want to hit on something that I feel is really important, and I'm trying to remember it again. I just forgot it. Okay. Is how yeah, what we were just saying, that it's a given, the time consumption, the emotional energy, just burnout. There we go. That's the word, burnout. That is just a given. But I want to say that our culture takes it a whole step further in an unhealthy way to today. I think there's a lot of child worship where you're a bad parent if you don't this, or you could be a better parent if only you did that. And then you really fall into the danger of your life truly is all about the kids. So burnout, emotional energy, yes, but you have got to make time for each other and not just activities with the kids.
That's
and we're
great.
talking even infants, newborns, toddlers, all of that. If you don't take the monthly infant photo 4 months, a month later you post the 5-month photo. Who cares?
Yeah.
Spend that time with your spouse instead of perfectly documenting the child worship thing we have going on in America.
Yeah, you worship your kids, you're going to ruin them, and your family falls apart.
Yeah.
And you really heavily invest into your marriage, the kids. I think that's really healthy for them to realize they're not the center of attention, and daddy and mommy are smitten with each other.
Right.
And they're second fiddle. Like, I want my kids to know my number one favorite person is mommy.
And that's
and
right.
we have date time, and know when mommy and daddy are talking and we're hanging out, you wait until it's your turn to talk.
Right. If this sounds really severe to you, really harsh and careless, maybe just take a look at your priorities. Are they with your spouse or are they with your kids? Because we've read a lot of books over the years about good Christian parenting and priorities, and it's been proven that studies have shown that kids actually can't handle being the center of everything all the time, and then they behave worse. Your marriage crashes. You all are burnout and desperate all the time. Anyway, it's a cyclical effect. So the more that you can truly keep the center of the family is truly better for the health of all of you.
That's good.
All of you.
So year 5 was really good, and then kids, and it wasn't that our happiness index crashed as much. It was difficult because all of a sudden we had to be far more selfless than we ever were before. We had less time. We had far more stress and more work, less date stuff and ability. And so the first couple of years of their lives, it was really more about balance and survive. And so that was year 7 where we really started, once they're about 2 or 3 years old, we started having a lot of fun again. And as the boys got older, 3 years old, holy cow, that was crazy fun.
Where you're just more mobile, you can do more. But what I think you're really getting at by using the word fun is that book we love, All Joy. What is it?
All Joy and No Happiness
is a recent book. You can look up and get it on Amazon. But it's a
description.
It's an amazing book that studies families across the U.S. over a period of time and shows how parents and families together are pouring so much of themselves into the child that they are drained. They're lifeless. They're just kind of going about like zombies. Now, again, we love children. Children are not the problem.
Yeah, and our kids
kids
are thriving. They're happy
focus.
boys.
Yeah, so you've got to reset your focus.
Yeah.
The children were never meant to be the center of the family. That's actually a change that has only occurred maybe the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Before that, children were never thought of as the center. It was always the marriage first. So this is a recent cultural thing we're having to fight against.
I think people are so focused on just surviving before.
Sure.
Now we're not just everyone's not just freaking out just every moment of the day up before sunrise, trying to survive in some type of agrarian society. Now we have so much margin, so much free time. We're almost entertaining ourselves to death, and it affords us the ability to worship our kids, idolize them, and lord over them every single moment. But
Right.
let's move on.
Okay.
The difficult thing is every time we kind of figure out, all right, this is where we are in life with kids, work, marriage, community, service, reading, rest, and putting all those things and say, how do I balance all this stuff so that life is sustainable, that everyone is thriving, that I've set my priorities and balance those priorities accordingly. We call it life balance. And really, it's not good enough to just go out and give life 110%, you idiot. That just doesn't work. You can't give everything 110%. Mathematically, it's impossible anyway. But I'm just saying, life is a game of balance, is what it is. So, like I'm crushing it at work and failing at home. Well, that's not successful. And then I'm awesome at home, but I can't hold down a job, and I'm not thriving in the workplace. Or, my kids are doing great, but me and my spouse aren't doing what. It's all about balance. Mm-hmm. And so every time we would be confronted with a new season of life, our balance would be thrown off, and we had to scramble to figure it out. And maybe it'd be 6 months before we really figured out how to, okay, no. We need to back this off, drop this obligation, make sure we boost date night up more. We have to figure out how to make some more time here. And we need something that's a little bit more restful in the in-between. But anyway, you have to be smart to figure out how in the world do you balance this stuff so you don't get so burned out that life is enjoyable and everything's thriving that's important to you. And so
we're recalibrating that constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes even week to week. Some weeks we're like, wow, we did that really well. Other times we have to go back and say, this was not a good week. What did we do too much of or not enough of? And so I think that's a really good thing to remember, is saying no to say yes. So you've got to say no to a lot of good things that actually are not the best things for you and your family. So even if it's you're looking at me funny.
Sorry, I zoned out.
No, I'm good. I lost my train of thought now, but
even if it means saying no.
Saying no to things maybe that you've always done or people expect you to do, or again, that cultural phenomenon of children absolutely 100%, 1,000,000% first. Maybe it's different for you. Something that has always been a little outside of the box for our families. We're just radically different in some areas. So if you could figure out what would really, like John said, make your family thrive, even if it's going to cost a little pain, or maybe your budget for certain things is going to go down. Maybe it's worth some of the money too to be thriving more in your happiness as a family.
What's so different about us? What makes us weird?
What makes us weird? Well, I never planned on John scratches his head with a knife. I'm drinking out of a llama cup.
And we're surrounded with firearms right now, guns everywhere.
Firearms. But I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom, and we've made the decision to homeschool. That's crazy and weird. Our hair's on fire. But that's things that we've just felt called to do for the peace of our family, the joy of our family.
Everyone's going to freak out now that you gave that away.
Unsubscribe.
We wanted to. So yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms. And folks that don't think similarly look at you like you're a psychopath for something. All like, yeah, we've thought this through, and if you came to different conclusions, that's cool.
And we're cheering you on.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. We're not drawing lines in the sand here. We're just saying, for your family, what's the best thing you need to say no to so that you can say yes?
All right. What's another point?
All right. We've mentioned this briefly as well. Protecting your emotional energy. For me, this would be maybe if the kids have asked me to do 10 things, I only say yes to maybe 2 of those things because they're coming up, hey, will you cut this out? Will you do this? And I realize before I lose my mind or get too aggravated that I really need to save energy for John when he comes home from work or from a trip, or I just really need to focus my mind, protect myself from just the craziness sometimes in a household.
And we got to communicate burnout early.
Communicate burnout early.
So
Yeah.
Miss Poet has a tendency to not recognize burnout coming. And when it does come, she resents that she has reached a
Weaknesses.
limit and then just doubles down and goes even harder
Yeah.
until she explodes.
Yeah.
And then that goes really, really well.
Yeah.
So the idea is as soon as, you know, all of a sudden you feel yourself getting frazzled, short-tempered, and be like, I am just whipped. Hey, I need to get out of here. And I'm like, see ya, have fun. And, you know, go out and do whatever you want for a little while. I got the kids. And then we both kind of have that free pass so that we see burnout coming and we don't let, you're not you when you're burned out.
Yeah.
And some people operate in burnout for years and they just never even see their spouse anymore. Not truly your spouse. You just see a burned out, rag-tired version of them, and that's not you, and that's really inefficient for work. That makes you miserable.
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to rest well and smart and protect that emotional energy. So
yeah, here I'm thinking of that email we received where the guy was asking, what can I do? Emotional burnout because work and then young children and night shift, day shift. And so if you can figure out some ways that you can just have a little box of you time or get your mindset and geared for the day, what you have to do, and then protect yourself. And like John's thing is he loves to go out to a movie by himself. And there can be ways you can figure out to do that. A spouse switches off at some point. One keeps the kids, one goes out to do something fun, then you switch off, or get a babysitter or get grandma to move closer or something like that.
Yeah. Miss Poe has a thing of as soon as I get home from a trip, I travel the country, teach tactical firearm classes and whatnot. When I get back, I mean, it's a 6-day stretch, you know, and so that's really hard on her. And so by the time I get back, she is emotionally exhausted with being indoors and being with the kids have driven her nuts. I've missed the kids and I've missed the house. I don't want to leave and I want to be around my family. I'm tired in one way, but I'm not tired in that way as she is. So we have our moment. Yay, make out for a couple minutes.
Reunion, yeah.
You know, so just literally, but it's almost kind of like, hey, kiss, love you, high five, get out. And she's gone. And I don't see her until the kids have been put down. And some of you would be like, that's crazy. I'm like, it is crazy. And it works great for us because she needs that. And when she comes home that night after being, you know, she essentially a few minutes, hello, tags out, and she's gone. When she comes back, she's like a newer woman. Newer woman, not a newer. You don't recover that quickly.
That's right.
But I mean, and that's become, that's ludicrous to think. You would never think that would work, but that works for us.
So that's one thing we figured out, you know, where it seems like, impossible, my circumstances. There is a way if you can just be creative, come up with a way to protect your emotional energy.
But just loving each other is not enough. That's so stupid.
There you go.
It's so stupid. When you think love is oftentimes thought of something that's like this emotion. It's a passion, like it's a feeling, when really I believe that love is far more of an action. You know, love is a verb. Love is something that you do. You could not feel loving and be loving at the same time.
It's a choice. It's also a choice.
That's the only way you could ever actually love your enemies, as you're said to, or love people that were unlovable. And so that can be really important. And so anyway, love is not enough. You got to be smart. You got to work really, really hard.
But what about those songs?
What about those songs? All you need is love.
All you need is love.
All you need is love. Hey, buddy, how's it going? You want to say hello to the camera?
Here's Judah.
All right, what's the last one?
Popped in. The last thing I wanted to just hit on was to schedule, be intentional to actually schedule what refuels you. Now, this isn't an activity that we just talked about, like a quick relief from burnout, a reset. This is something that really just gets you going. For me, my example is something being outside, all of us, the whole family. So recently, we were in Tennessee for a quick mountain cabin trip with my extended family, and there was a river nearby, and the whole family just went and walked through the river for a while, and that was amazing. That was an intentional thing where other family was maybe off doing different things, activities, excursions, but for me, I just wanted to stay close by, do something right there. I know it's silly in nature, but that was something intentional I chose to do that refueled me, that poured back in emotional energy for me to go about my week so that I'm not just locked away in my room the rest of the week, burnout, right?
Right.
So
That's awesome. Yep. And all I could think of is I want to be near you and with you, and I want it to be really quiet where I don't have to answer any questions or
Right.
talk. I like quiet. And because I never get quiet.
Is that right, Judah?
Someone is blowing up
Does
your
Daddy
phone.
hear a lot of quiet?
All right. Well, I think our time has expired. Anything else to add, Miss Poet?
I think that's all.
Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you share this with your spouse. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done so. We'd really appreciate it. And you can look forward to more content with Miss Poet, especially a podcast that should be hitting our website. If you haven't already picked up some apparel, you'd almost think this was product placement, but keeps hot things hot, cold things cold. All kinds of cool shirts. Miss Poet, look at that shirt. Oh, you're looking so good.
Women's wear
anyway,
coming soon.
so that helps me take Miss Poet out on a date and feed this little guy. So anyway, train hard, train smart. We'll see you next time, guys. See ya.